G'day everyone and welcome to ECITV. Today we have a very special guest. I think Glabby can introduce himself and tell us how long he's been around.
So my name is Nathan Glab. I've been riding for about 13, 14 years. Been racing in Superclass and I guess A and AA when they were around. Still having a dip in there, but also doing a lot of coaching these days as well. So this year is actually my 10th year of coaching, so it's gone pretty quick. Do a lot of coaching, do a lot of riding, and just a full-time lover of BMX. You know what I'm saying?
So we got Nathan in to talk a little bit about his coaching, but also a bit of a wrap-up from the World Championships. He has pretty close ties with some of the riders that were there. What was a highlight for you as a coach and as a fan of BMX?
Well, it's hard to sort of look past the results of my riders. So I've been lucky to help. We had three that I helped going over. So we had Danica Memory, Maya Ellis, and Bella May. So Danica, last year she went out in the quarters. This year she made it to the semi, which is a really, really good result. Which it was awesome. It was really, really good. I think she wanted a little bit more, but I think, like, as a coach, I was super happy. And I think everyone was happy. And yeah, so that was really good. Maya actually became world champion, which was really, really good. She rode really well all day and had a little bit of luck in the final and got the win. So that was bloody exciting. And then also Bella finished on the podium, getting a third in U23 women. So that was pretty special as well. So we had a couple. I had only three riders that I helped who went over, but they all weren't mucking around. So yeah, it was really, really good, really exciting.
So have you heard back from those riders since they got their results?
Yeah, a little bit. It was good to catch up with Bella last Thursday at PO. She's back. I think Maya got back today, and Danica's still off. I think she was at the Indy 500 yesterday. Right. So
just living that dream.
They're just living the dream. So it'd be good to catch up with them all and actually see them all when they get back. But I think everyone's sort of in holiday mode.
Because like you mentioned, May had a bit of luck in the final, but I've watched it a couple of times, and she was on those girls regardless. She had a really good run, and I think she would have probably challenged them coming down third straight.
Yeah.
So I don't know, when someone washes out, second gets held up, whatever, but she was on them anyway. So
yeah.
But Danica, for me, out of your riders, Danica was a highlight to watch because she was powerful all day until she got to the semi. So that's as far as she obviously went.
Yeah.
But to see her actually using skills as well in her racing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. And being a local girl, you sit there and you feel a bit like, I know that person.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So no, well done, man.
Yeah. No, and the couple, I say like the last. Well, since I was working with Danica, just skill development's been like the main thing. So that's like just even if she didn't even go to the Worlds, just looking at where she was to where she is now, she ticks so many boxes.
Yeah.
To get a good result at the Worlds is just a bit of a cherry on top as well.
Yeah.
Just overall, just the rider development, they're all chipping away, doing really well. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So as far as the actual Worlds overall...
Yeah, what were your views on the Worlds track and the competition, the elites? What were your thoughts?
Could have been better weather, but... and I think the call to cancel racing... Well, they didn't cancel, they just
told everyone to go.
Yeah. I think that was... maybe not, I don't agree with it too much, but other than that, I think Rock Hill... It looks like I've never ridden it, but it looks like a good track. The racing was good, apart from just the weather. But I thought it was all good, and I think it was a bit rough for us watching it, like the time zones. Bloody hell, those were they could have put it prime time for us, bloody bastards. But I thought it was good track.
Did it inspire you? Do you want to go to the next Worlds after watching it?
Matty White inspires me a little bit, so maybe, I don't know, maybe we might see for like the next Worlds in Aussie, I might maybe have a dip in age class and see how we go. But
Brizzy.
yeah, maybe. Don't quote me, but we'll see.
No, it's
See how we go.
yeah. You'd be mad not to in your own backyard.
Yeah.
So.
But I think definitely, maybe probably more so go to the Worlds as a coach these days rather than a rider. Unless I do have a dip in age and so.
What about the elites? Do you have any favourite riders you like to watch?
Always love watching Isaac. So that was a bit unfortunate seeing him go down. I do like watching Josh McLean. He's from Melbourne and he's a good dude. Yeah. I thought it was all pretty exciting. Again, it was like 4 a.m. when I was watching it, so it's still a bit of a haze. But yeah.
Would you have picked Joris as an older rider to come through for another win?
Or it's hard to sort of not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like he's just.
It just seems to bounce back so quickly from injuries. He's always on it.
Yeah.
Always consistent.
And just like, I don't know, like his peak has just been for like 10 years. Like,
there's no peak.
Yeah,
that's probably longer. His first World Championship, I think, was 2011, wasn't it? It was a long time ago.
So is this his third? This is third.
Yeah, third.
Yeah, but it's moving the peak of the performance male, I reckon, because you look, Sylvian was only in third.
Well, the first Olympics in 2008, they had a cap of the age for the riders. I think it was 18, it might have been 19 because it was senior elite, to 30. And 30 was actually the oldest it was supposed to be. I think there might have been 1 or 2 riders that were 31. I think Thomas Allier was one of them. But to think that they thought back in 2008 that there was a cap to the peak ability of a rider. And then you look at, Elise isn't young and she won the women's. The whole thing's changing, isn't it? Everyone's getting that bit older and still fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Faster, if anything.
Yeah.
I mean, our Lauren Reynolds was the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was it her semi or her quarter? She came out flying.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh shit, she's turning up,
Yeah.
But the other thing too is like, you notice a couple of people like you'd say would be favourites for the Olympics seem to back off a little bit. Well, I'm not saying they did, but say the final, like Saya wasn't as aggressive as that she has been in the past or whatever, and you wonder if they've got like the Olympics in the back of their mind. They're like, it's not worth going down. The Olympics are only like 6 weeks or whatever it is.
Except if you read her review of her racing, she was pretty disappointed in herself. So maybe it wasn't mentally, she wasn't trying to back off, but maybe there was something in her body saying, "Hey, let's make it to the Olympics."
Yeah.
Thought it was good seeing Nick have some form again, like from was it Tulsa he won?
Yep.
And then
both days.
Yeah, then taking his second. Second,
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I like. Nick's cool. Even just like you look at his YouTube and he's all seems pretty grounded. Like not like I don't know, just a nice, cool dude. Like like he has good days, bad days.
And he shows it all, doesn't he?
He shows it all. Yeah, that's the highs and lows.
I had to laugh. I think it was at Tulsa on the first day he'd won, and he said in his interview something like, "Oh, everyone had written me off."
Yeah.
And he just can't write him off.
Yeah.
What do you say there? He was like, everyone says Nick can only win from lane 8.
Yeah.
And he picked 1.
Yeah.
You know? And it's good because that's a form that you sort of are familiar with, you know? And we see him like that first straight and he's just hooking and you're going, holy shit, he's going to pull this, you know?
Yeah.
So, pretty exciting race, really.
Actually, he'd beaten Joris to the first corner in the World's final, didn't he? But Joris was underneath, so pushed him up a bit.
Yeah. There was a video circulating today. It was from Nick's point of view, like he's like GoPro or whatever, and there's not much of a gap between him and the white line. Yeah. And next thing you know, they show the video and it's like Joris just going, nah, that's a gap. Yeah, it's crazy. Good stuff though. That's what you want to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
All right, so let's hear a bit more about your coaching, Glabby. How does it work if, say, I needed some help, which clearly I do, with my gates or something, and do I get in touch with you and then we work out some kind of a program? Is that how it works?
I do. So I'm pretty busy with like club coaching. So I help 4 clubs throughout the week. So I do Mondays at Knox, Lilydale on Tuesdays, Park Orchards Wednesdays and Saturdays at Northern. So that fills up quite a bit of my plate. So I don't really have I've got a little bit of time to throw in private sessions when I can, but more so just the group environment sort of club coaching. But also started doing like a lot of programming and all that ever since I sort of did my advanced coaching course the end of last year. So that's been pretty cool. But a lot of my play is all the club stuff. So we do, from like kids on their very first ride, we'll do sessions of that, beginner sessions, pretty much all the way up till we got pros, like in the like junior superclass riders in our last session. So I think that's the cool thing is that I always think about it. I think it's cool. It's like I still work with like a whole range of riders, not just either the beginners or the top. It's kind of everyone. Like, I don't know if you like BMX. I like hanging out with you, so you know what I mean? Just get people stoked on BMX. And
that's where like you and I had conversations, and we'll talk about, I suppose, the coaching culture.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've seen you in the last 5 years in the sense of your coaching growing and your groups and the people, the young kids from my own club and stuff like that that have stayed with you. And, like, they're all now dabbling in superclass and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed, doesn't matter what club they're from or what teams they're on, whatever, like, they're all really supportive of each other. And I think, you know, from other coaching groups I've seen, whatever, it just seems a completely different culture.
Yeah.
You know, it's not us versus the world. It's like, hey, man, like, fucking, let's BMX and let's go jump some shit. And, you know, it's very inclusive, you know, which I think helps people develop as well.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about some of your riders earlier, and in particular, we're talking about Madison Grace and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, to see, number one, I mean, I'm probably kicking the nuts for this, but to see a girl particularly push jumping skills and stuff, I think doesn't come as naturally as it does for some boys or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And to see her grow in the last couple of months to, like, we're talking about the video that she recently posted, it was like, that's just crazy. And that's from her riding with the boys in your groups that are supportive and inclusive and that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And they all want to see each other achieve, you know?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, and it's like throughout my years of coaching, like the biggest thing is sort of the culture and the environment you sort of create, where you give a lot more, like, rather than it all comes from the coach, you want to give responsibilities to the riders as well. So thinking about like the riders and the environment that they create is pretty much just as much of an asset like as the coach itself. So we always sort of talk about, and I feel like as a coach, like we're always so, like, it's very easy to be very critical all the time, where it's like you're always like critiquing and always, I guess, just like looking at like what else you can be doing and doing.
Yeah.
Where I guess over the last few years, been thinking more about like you got to celebrate the wins as well and actually praise the riders when they do good.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, if they do a good gate, you say, man, that was a bloody good gate. And then you just, let's see it again. Instead of like trying to nitpick and all that, because then riders will always come back and they're like, what can I do? What can I do? And it's like, man, that was good. Like, and then once that sort of clicks, then they're pretty happy. And then a happy rider is going to be pretty fast as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, just critiquing and all that, but also knowing when to give them the props as well that's deserved. I would say, like, we always talk about, and I say to the riders in our group, it's like, if I wasn't here, like, these sessions would still run good. We were like, when I'm coaching, I like to try and have a lot of discussions rather than just like me just talking, just trying to create like two-way communication rather than just one way. I guess trying to bring the riders in.
Yeah.
And last week we were having good discussion on sort of like what makes good training environment with my Park Orchards riders. And we were just sort of like, I just put it out there, I'm like, hey, what makes good training environment? Any ideas? And people putting their hand up, things like, I guess, you know, being positive, being supportive, keeping it fun, and like all that kind of stuff. And it was funny, all the things they listed off were things that they do, not so much what the coach does.
Yeah, yeah.
So just goes to show, like, it's not so much, like, the coach isn't the biggest part of like coaching. It's the culture you create. Like it's creating a space for riders to grow and learn rather than just, because there's definitely, I feel like there's a difference between being like an instructor and a coach. So I don't want to just be like, do this, do this, do this, do this. You sort of want to give them the knowledge and give them sort of the information they need, but then create an environment for them to learn it themselves as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Because there is like a learning process, I feel, where you're not going to get something straight away. Like you're like, I guess like when you learn to walk, right? No one told you like that you do this with your legs. Like your mum and dad didn't tell you like this is how you walk. You just sort of learned it over time, and same like learning when you first learn how to ride a bike as well. I think you got to create an environment where people are happy to try, and regardless if you make mistakes or it takes you 2 goes or 100 goes, it's a good environment to just develop rather than just like the coach always saying, do this, do this, do this, and just keep instructing rather than just create that environment and the riders will sort itself out. They know what's going on. They just need a bit of time. So sometimes it's knowing when to shut up and when to instruct and when to just shut up and let the riders do their thing.
Yeah. Well, I know on that, you've said that before when, going to Sleeman for the World Cups with Bella and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As a coach to go, I'm a coach and, I'm supposed to tell you what to do. But there's also times where you go, I don't need to say anything. I'm just here to support you on your day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that was, for the World Cups, going there as a coach, that was my biggest lesson, was when you need versus like when you're not needed. So I would probably say I was only needed a little bit of the time for little discussions. Other than that, I was just filming, sending the footage to the riders. Just letting riders get into their groove, just knowing when you don't need to be there.
Yeah.
But then if they need to be there, you'll be there. Trying not to, I guess, like lord over the riders. So that was a really cool thing. It's hard because you're always thinking like, man, can I be helping? But like, you don't. You don't. Like, that's.
Or you're seeing something. Is it beneficial to that? I need to tell them that right now, or whatever else, or.
Yeah. I think for me, the last few years is just understanding like how knowledgeable. Like you want to, if you do your job right as a coach, you're not needed as much as a coach. You pretty much make your job, I guess, is redundant the word or
obsolete.
Obsolete. That's a better word. Yeah. So if you do a good job, your job, like you're sort of like making your job obsolete where you're not needed as much.
Yep.
Where rather than, always instructing, you're just there as more of a support role.
Yep.
So that's like the art of coaching is the better you do it, the less you're needed. So it's kind of like it's weird. It's a weird one. But
does that mean you're doing your job right though as well?
Yeah.
Like if you sit there and go, you've got your higher level advanced riders that know the structure, they know what they do day in, day out with you, and it gets to a stage where they can go to the track on the weekend, do their own efforts, their own training and such, so not reliant as much on you. So you sit and go, well, you're on your path, you know what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And you're there to sort of reiterate things along the way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I suppose that's an accomplishment as a coach then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is good. I guess, like, just for an example, like working with the maze, like, we sort of scraped everything back with gates and we just took everything back to basics and then built up from there. So we were doing weekly gate sessions, just sort of getting real nitty-gritty with it all. Just lots of filming, lots of critiquing, just building that knowledge on sort of what makes a good gate start. And then as we went on, it's like we started cutting back sessions from weekly to 2 weeks. And now I just see him on a Thursday, do our programs and all that. And we catch up maybe on a Tuesday if everyone's in the country. These days it's like, I don't have to say to Bella and Blake, like, how to do a gate start. Because they know. If I say it, I'll just look silly because they know exactly what to do. But it's like, just if they're having trouble, just asking them questions like, what do you need to focus on? What can you do the next gate? And then they'll tell me.
Yep.
Because they know exactly what they need to do. So, it is interesting as you get to sort of that end of coaching. And I think ever since working with them, it's been like a really good like learning curve, I feel like, because that was like, when did I start working with them? Started last year. That was kind of like the first, I would say, like, I've always taken coaching like pretty serious, but this is like the first kind of like actual proper serious like riders where there's a bit more on the line sort of. So
yeah, there's more to achieve, results to gain, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So yeah.
It's exciting, man.
As a coach, what's the hardest thing to teach somebody?
I would say like one of the hardest things is just like, well, I think it's nearly like impossible to teach, but if someone's not coachable. So if you've got, like if a rider's a little bit too rigid where they think they're not open to new things, I think that is definitely a detriment. So yeah, being coachable, like, yeah, that is I think that's one of the harder things. But other than that, I think gates are pretty hard, and I think also back into like sort of just building that, I guess, that commitment as well. I think one of the hardest things, like riders, well, actually we're starting to pick up a bit of momentum now. Now that I'm thinking about it. There's a few. I would say we love doing the things that we're good at.
Yeah.
But not so much of the things that we're bad at. So some riders are really good at gates, not so much at like riding the track. So on a gate night, hey, you'll see them up on the gate just banging out gates, just like I'm the best. But then you'll see riders who are really good on the track, and you'll see them just at park orchards just jumping that triple over and over and over again because they love the track, but they don't do too many gates. I think one of the biggest challenges has been just to sort of, I guess, get riders to start doing the stuff away from the track, like sprinting and some strength training as well. Yeah, I feel like we love riding. We love riding so much that we aren't actually, when you're younger, just ride your bike, just have some fun. But I'm working with a lot of riders who everyone's sort of starting to get around that like sort of 14, 15, 16 age where that's your time when you really got to start to take things a bit more serious. Well, not serious, but like if you're not doing like your homework outside of the track, like regular track training, you'll get left behind out the gate. So I think that's one of the things, and just trying to just persuade riders or like just give them the information on like why you would do this. So like looking at just strength training, you're going to build power, you're going to like injury prevention, you're going to be stronger, so you're not going to break as much. Yeah, just a lot of things like that. But yeah, we're getting there though.
What's the toughest lesson you learnt as a coach from other people, from the people you're coaching?
One of the biggest lessons is like just, I think as a part of coaching, it's like the way you communicate with people and just understanding that everyone is like a little bit like different. Mm-hmm. I would say, yeah, it's just understanding how different people tick. I think that is like one of the biggest arts of coaching is your like emotional intelligence, where like it's not about what you say, but also how you say it as well. So I think just, I guess the way you talk to people makes like a big impact on sort of what you're trying to get across.
Yeah.
Being, some riders you want to be, you can be a bit more stern. Some riders you need to be a bit more, I guess, relaxed. Some riders, if you're joking around, I like to joke around. I like to sort of keep things pretty funny and fun. And that's a good way to get to the riders. Like Ryan's in a few of my sessions. He jumps in, and I don't know. Sometimes we just try and keep it pretty light and funny, and that gets everyone a bit more relaxed. But yeah, definitely just lessons is just probably just the way you talk to people is. That's going to get the most, like, yeah, because everyone's a little bit different. Yeah. Like, no two riders are the same. Yes, yeah. How you say how you say, not what you say.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
You got any more questions?
Man, how many hours do you want to go for? No, because the funny thing, like, Glabby and I always have a little catch-up after a session or whatever like that. So, I mean, the best thing that I like is that you will constantly educate yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, the coach you are now is different to the coach you were 4 years ago when Texas and I started with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's because, you know, I think you said to me that you'd feel that if you weren't bettering yourself, you're doing your students an injustice.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, it's probably not even a question, it's more of just a praise. I don't see that sort of, I suppose, maturity, from a lot of people. A lot of people still just have that mentality of, like, coaching, and it's like, you know, cracking the shits and, oh, you missed the gate again. Why are you doing that? You know, and...
Yeah.
And like you've just spoken about, you know, learning how to talk to people, and everyone's different and, you know, receives information different. And I watch you. I've seen you in a session do it with different people. Some people it's more of a joke, and others it's like, no, that was really good. Maybe try it this way, you know, instead of just going, no, it was shit house, you know, let's do it better.
Yeah.
You know, your level of communication that you've learned to adapt is, you know, is awesome to watch from an outsider's point of view. So
it was something, yeah, I think it was something that, like, I guess, like, in regards to, like, learning and growing as a coach, we're lucky, like, I guess from my background as well, like, I've had a few coaches in my time. So I worked with Tony Harvey. Also worked with a little bit with Simon Anderson in Geelong as well. He was always a good person to have around. And also, like, Rob Beams over in America. And I sort of always think, like, in regards to, I guess, how I coach now, I look at the good things that I had when I was growing up and throughout sort of my career training under coaches, take all the good stuff, but then there was a lot of things that I feel like I didn't really, like, have, where things that maybe my progression was maybe not as much because of certain things. So I guess as a coach, like, I want to sort of be a bit open-minded. Like, just, yeah, I did, like, a lot of really good things with Tony, and Tony was, like, probably one of my biggest mentors, like, growing up. Like, I worked at the gym with him, learned so much, nearly, like, the level of, like, I've nearly learned just as much as, like, my dad. Like, Tony was, like, nearly like a second dad. It was kind of crazy. But I feel like the mingling aspect with, like, other coaches and other riders, it was sort of like we had a really tight training environment, but we didn't really... He wasn't a big fan of, like, going out and training with, like, the state team and like other riders like that. Yep. We just had our own, like, HRV team, and we stayed together, which was good because we had a good little crew. But it was kind of like, you know, what if we rode with them as well, and what if we did gates, and what if I was allowed on the state team and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's one of my biggest things is, like, not being, like, it's not about the coach, it's about the rider at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want to be out there talking with, like, in Australia, there's, like, a good network of coaches. So there's a good bunch that we talk to, and if we got a question, we'll find the answer. And there's a really good, like, I got a few that I really, really respect, and I'll have a good chat with. So I learn a lot that way. And I would even say, just, like, a lot of coaches, I don't even know if it's well known, but, like, Oz Cycling does do a fair bit of, like, I guess, personal development stuff, like, where they'll do, like, seminars, and they'll do, like, I did the advanced coaching course, like, at the end of last year, and it was really good. Cost an arm and a leg, but we learn a lot, like, just in regards to, like, high performance and just a lot of things like high performance. Man, just, like, the amount I learned from that was amazing. And then also, like, back in 22, there was a seminar in Adelaide where Sam Willoughby was there, and Toby Edwards, the Oz Cycling strength and conditioning coach. There was Scott Gardner was there as well, one of the other like, head coaches at Oz Cycling too, and they were there talking about sort of their coaching philosophies, and I guess, yeah, just a lot of cool things. Sam was going through sprints and gate starts and all that. And there was, out of the whole country, I feel like there was only about 10 who took the opportunity up. So, and then there was only 2 Victorians, so there was myself and Fraser Tahiko there. So I feel like Oz Cycling does put out a lot of things like that allow coaches to sort of grow and learn. Whether coaches take that up, it's up to them, but they are sort of there. That was sort of where, that was my, after that seminar in 2022 in Adelaide, that was like my biggest, I feel like where I learnt a lot about sort of communication with riders. So if you want to get the best out of someone, you got to bring them in to the conversation. So instead of just telling someone what to do, like ask them questions and they'll probably say what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And then because they've given you the answer, it's going to click a lot more for them.
Yeah.
So before we offer advice, ask questions, ask. And then the chances are they'll say it without you saying it, and then it's going to click more.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess the old saying is, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should listen twice as much as we talk. So, yeah, that is So, when I'm coaching, I'm always thinking, when's my time to talk and when's my time to sort of like ask questions and let them answer. So let them sort of be in charge of what they need to do.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of just like learning, coaching and all that. I think like I've always sort of wanted to be the best rider I can. And I always think coaching is kind of like, it's like not really a job or anything. I think it's like another passion, and it's kind of like another skill that I really enjoy. So I love riding, and I want to be the best rider I can. So I do a lot of training. I love coaching, so I want to learn as much as I can to be the best coach I can as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just love it and have a lot of interest in it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
What are your aspirations as a coach? Are you happy doing what you're doing? Do you think you'll still be doing it in 5 years' time, or do you reckon you'll be trying to say help coach the Australian team or something like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Yeah, life's pretty good at the moment. But yeah, I think going forward, hopefully maybe more opportunities at like a Oz Cycling level. That would be pretty exciting. But I'm pretty happy with how things are going now, and just sort of, it's I don't know. It's a good question, but I'm super happy with just how things are going. Like even just from how things have grown, I would say in the last like 3 years. Like when I was in Geelong, when I was coaching like maybe like 5 riders. I was coaching like one girl, Hannah Moyle, who's racing like women's superclass, and she was pretty competitive in there, and just a few like younger guys, but I wasn't really coaching with the club at the time because it was a bit hard to work with Geelong at the time. It was a bit tricky there. So I just had a really small group, and yeah, it was just really, really sort of humble beginnings, but to like where it is now and how big it is, and like how if I guess going back a few years ago, I could probably have like another job and coach, where now it's kind of like my coaching plate's pretty full, where I feel like if I got another job, I would have to cut back some amount of coaching. So I think, just the way it is now, it's like really, really good. But opportunities going forward would be also pretty nice as well. Like I try not to say no to anything that pops up. As the old saying goes, try anything once,
It was like as soon as you mentioned Oz Cycling, I saw him smile. I'm thinking the resume's been sent.
I was just thinking, one of those nice, like laid back Oz Cycling jobs. Like, just kicking back. Nah, I think they do a good job.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would say, how there's like a lot of chatting, like there's a lot of negative stuff about Oz Cycling. From the coaching point of view, I'm pretty positive of it all, because I've tried to take up a lot of the opportunities and all that. So, I'm a bit more pro Oz Cycling than negative.
So if there's pathways for riders to progress through the sport, is there pathways for coaches as well?
Not sure. There is, I guess.
So the more training you do, does that open doors for you potentially going along to, say, the next World Championships or a World Cup?
Yeah.
As, I don't know, team manager, but maybe in a coaching role or something like that?
Yeah, I would say there's like sort of no guarantees. But how it works is like you've got your, I think it's beginner coaches. Is that what it's like?
Oh, the very basic.
Yeah, so
ones.
it goes beginner coach. I think there's maybe like a one below that as well. But it's like beginner, development, then advanced. Then there might be a secret one up ahead, but I don't know. Like I've heard rumors that there's another one. I would think that that's like up like around Olympic level.
Yep.
So I've just done the advanced one. So I did that with James Laudier as well and Hayden Fletcher. Out of all the riders because when doing that course, it wasn't like BMX specific. So that's what was pretty interesting. It was like there was only like 10 people in there. There was 3 BMXers, me, James Laudier, and Hayden Fletcher, and then the rest were from track cycling, mountain biking, and road cycling. So it was cool to like kind of hear all those different perspectives and all that kind of stuff. But in regards to like pathway, I think, I just think like if I do, like if there's an opportunity and I can go do it, I'll go do it. Because it's like, I don't know, do the right things rather than being like that guy that's like, oh, F-Oz cycling, you know, I'm not paying that to do this course, you know, that's a waste of money. Like I'd rather be like, oh yeah, it's an investment in yourself and
Exactly.
and the riders as well. Like you were saying, like it's, if I'm not actively trying to get a bit better, then my coaching is going to become stale, which means the riders aren't getting the best out of me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think you're right. I think we can go forever talking.
Yeah, I told you it's going to be dangerous. Because I know he's got coaching tonight. That's why he's looking at his watch now.
No, I got heaps of time. Yeah, heaps of time.
Ryan doesn't. He's got some shipping to do.
Got some orders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because one thing like not many people know is that Rob, who you know you have a fair bit to do with, is like a moto coach from the States.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it was
Actually, randomly, I saw one of his podcasts.
Yeah.
That popped up on. No, you didn't share something, did you?
I share a bunch of when I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I saw it on Instagram anyway.
Yeah.
One of his podcasts, and I thought, oh, that's you're Rob.
Yeah. Yeah, he was pretty cool to start working with. So Ben Simmons, who I'm pretty tight with, he's been helping me for ages. Just really, really good bloke. He does like Twisted with like prophecies and all that sort of stuff. And you know the Gypsy Tales podcast? It's like a moto podcast where they just kind of like get people on talking about like motocross, supercross, and all that sort of stuff. I'm not big on it. Like I'm not a big motocross, supercross guy. I don't know too much about it, but I find it like interesting, and the Gypsy Tales podcast is pretty good. And Ben messaged me. He's like, "Listen to this guy. This guy's bloody like knows what he's talking about." And Rob Beams, and he was on there talking about just human performance and just like overall, just like all these amazing things on like just how to get like fitter, stronger, and faster. And he's worked with like a lot of great like athletes in like triathlons and like motocross and all that. And he worked with like Ryan Dungey for a while.
Yep.
He's worked with like AC when he was like younger as well, and a lot of like just really good really good motocross, supercross riders.
Yep.
And so Ben's like, I listened to him, I'm like, man, this guy sounds bloody awesome, like really cool. And Ben's like, you want me to message him and see if we can do some sort of BMX program, or ask him if he's trained BMX people? And Ben reached out to him, and Rob said he actually used to race BMX, which is pretty cool. So I think it was like in the 80s or something. He was like, it was like one of the world championships was in Florida, and he made the final in like.
Oh, it was in like 87 or something.
And so he made like the pro final and finished like 8th. So that's like pretty cool. So he's got like a BMX background, and then he went into doing like triathlons and all that sort of stuff. But so it's really cool working with Rob, just like learning. I think a lot of the BMX specific stuff, I think that was like maybe that expertise wasn't quite there. Like in BMX, I feel like when we sprint and gym and all that, it's all a bit more nitty gritty. Like you could do an infinite amount of different sort of sprints. But I think with Rob, one of the best things was just like learning about just overall like human performance, and like just looking at, like, he got me to get a Garmin. The first thing he said to me when I started working with him was, all right, I need you to get a Garmin watch. And I'm like, what? What? You bloody asked me to spend $1,000, and I just want to get faster. And he's like, just think about it as an investment, not as much like a splurge, like purchase. And I'm like, all right. And I was like, I trust you. It's all good. So I got the Garmin, and then it was after that, it was like it took so long to get a program off him, but he just kept looking at my sleep. So with a Garmin or sort of most smartwatches, when you go to bed, it'll measure your, like, the quality of your sleep and all that sort of stuff. And I sort of came from a point where, I guess, when I moved to Melbourne, I finished training up with like Tony, which was all great. I wouldn't say really anything bad. Tony taught me so much. But I was sort of at a point where I had enough at Geelong, and I was sort of nearly burnt out a little bit. And I was a little bit overtrained. Moved to Melbourne, did my own thing for 6 months, and started working with Rob. And I was kind of like, I didn't really have much knowledge on sort of just like resting and just, I guess, just sustainable training, rather than just like, I feel like it's very easy doing BMX where you always just balls to the wall, just going pretty hard all the time. It's very easy to get burnt out. And yeah, training with Rob, it was like he just kept getting me to sleep better. He's just like, man, like, eat this, try and do this, make sure your room's cold, make sure there's no lights, make sure there's no noise. And I'm like, man, like, we're paying this guy. we're paying this guy for programs, and he's just getting me to sleep. I just want to do some sprints and squats, And but then we got there in the end, but that was like such a really good lesson. And I guess coming from a BMX perspective, like, I feel like, you could, like, BMX does have its like high performance where there is all that stuff going on, but like, I feel like for the most part on like our level, like on a state sort of level, no one really talks about resting heart rates, heart rate zones in training and all that kind of stuff, and like aerobic development and all that sort of stuff. So, like dogs out there. So that was like a really cool thing, and like I had to really change my perspective on what training was to me. Like, to me, I was like, all right, squat heavy, jump really high in the gym, and just do lots of sprints and gates. And then with Rob, it was a lot more of just like overall like health and wellness and performance. And it was like, you won't get fast until you're like healthy, until you're like eating good and sleeping good and like staying hydrated. If you can't do those things, like, you'll never reach your potential. So that was like a really big thing, just learning about all that stuff. And then I did a few years sort of following Rob's program. It was all really, really good. We sort of like reached a lot of my weaknesses. And then I sort of started taking what sort of, I guess, Rob taught me into my own sort of like philosophy of training, I would say. And I've had a lot of help from like a lot of other coaches as well. So I take a lot of inspiration from like Hayden Fletcher and also Adam Carey as well. I reckon they are a couple on the top of my list of coaches that I always bounce off and I look up to. Also, a lot of the stuff that I did with Tony Harvey back in the day was really good too. But just kind of like piecing all the good things that I've done over the last few years and just sort of like just learning a lot and putting it all together. But it was really cool working with Rob. Like, he was, really, really good. And he was a big he was really good at like communicating as well. And that was like my first time sort of training with someone where there was a lot of open-ended questions that allowed for like a lot of discussions and a lot of thinking as well. So, yeah, I'd say maybe bit of a stretch, but I reckon he's one of the best coaches in the world. Yeah, and it was my first time doing like online sort of coaching as well, over the phone and messaging and all that. So it was all a really good learning experience.
Did you get to meet him when you went to the States?
Nah, but he came to the World Cups in Shepparton those few years ago,
Yep.
so that was cool to meet him.
Yep.
We went out for dinner and he was
What's
at
he
the race.
doing there?
He was on he comes to Australia and does like a bunch of like motocross like training camps, and he'll do I think he was doing a bunch on the eastern side of Australia, and the timing just worked where he was sort of in Victoria, or he made it work where he could get to the World Cups and come and hang out and watch the racing. And
Because you raced elite there, didn't you?
yeah, didn't do that well, but it was a really good experience.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that was pretty cool. So yeah, he's a bit of a legend. And yeah, and then, even then he still sends me out gear every now and then. He just sent me a couple jerseys the other day, and always checking in. And yeah, he's a bit of a legend. He is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on people who might jump from, say, coach to coach through the week? They might go coaching with one person, then coaching with someone else, and then come coaching with you. What are your thoughts on having multiple coaches versus just one focused one?
Yep. I'm all for it. I think it depends on the rider. So like I was saying before, it's like the spotlight shouldn't be on the coach rather than the rider. So that was one of my things growing up when I was talking about sort of things that I had that were really good and things that sort of held me back a little bit. I think not being exposed to other coaches was always just sort of relying on the one person, because they don't I don't know everything. I don't have the answer to every bloody question someone asks me, but if you do rely on the one person, it is a bit tricky. But then again, like some riders might just prefer just having one coach. So if the rider likes that, hey, it's all good. But like if a rider works for me, like they know that they can go train elsewhere as well. And like we'll chat about like, oh yeah, how was the session with this person? And they'll be like, oh yeah, it was good. We were working on this, and I'm like, sick. You know, as long as they're progressing, like I think it's really all about the rider. Like a rider could have, man, like if they could get better and better and better, and they had 100 coaches, be a bit silly. But if they had two coaches, or two coaches and another person as well to help them out, and they're at their potential and they're doing really well and they're progressing, who are we to judge like how many? Where another rider just might want one and they're happy with that, and that works good as well. But I think that's another thing as well, like working with like Bella, just understanding that it doesn't revolve around like one coach either. So she's a part of the VIS, and there's like a nutritionist, there's a strength conditioning coach, there's like all these things going on. So as you get to high performance, there's more help. Where if you're a coach where you don't like, you're my rider and I don't want you going anywhere, like it's going to be really hard to adjust to that rider getting more help. So, and I think that was like kind of like a better, like, I wouldn't say like training in the maze, and like I've had a lot of riders come through, like Bella and Blake, they were already great before I started working with them. So it was easier to sort of transition into like that, they're going to get more help from other areas as well, because it's like, I didn't build them from the ground up. They're already really good. Where I can just sort of make them a bit better and sort of help them out a little bit along the way. But yeah, if you're like down the track, you're going to have, if they make it to high performance or a high level, there is going to be more help. There's going to be more help from Oz Cycling. There's going to be, there's going to be like Luke Medill getting involved and all that sort of stuff. So you have to be able to work with other coaches as well, not just,
So you go from being a coach to more a piece of a network.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I just realised I dragged you back into the coaching. I've just got all these questions bouncing around my head, and like we said, we could probably go for hours, and I'll try to stop.
Yeah.
But it sucks you into the vortex. It's funny, man. Because it is, from an outsider point of view, it's I don't know, interesting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the aspects of it, and we get free knowledge because you're learning it, and to us it's free knowledge. You know what I mean? You're like, it's taken me 8 years of coaching, whatever. And this is where I'm at. We're within half an hour going, okay, cool. But you were sort of saying, who's currently supporting Glabby?
Yes, that's what I was going to ask next.
Yeah.
I guess what we need to ask you now is, who would you like to thank for supporting you through your racing career?
Woo. I think I would always try to start with my mum and dad. I think they're always I never went without. Like they always were there to support. I think coaches are a big thing. So I learnt so much from Tony Harvey on the HRV fitness team, working with him at the gym as well. A lot about just life and just everything. Tony was massive and Rob was massive. Also like Simon Anderson, a lot of good chats with him as well over the years, and they've been really good. I think had a lot of support from Ben Simmons, who does Twisted, so he helps me out with my bike and hooks me up with some prophecy stuff, which is pretty gangster. There's a lot of fair bit of help. So I got a good network where it's all pretty relaxed as well. Like, I haven't signed a contract yet, but I get a lot of people who help me, which is like good. It's like laid back, but it's like I don't know, So
Makes life easier when it's like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. I just try to be pretty cruisy and do the right things, and
Actually, that makes me think, like, what club are you actually in? Because I reckon every club in Victoria is adopted gym now.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you're Northern or you're Parkour. Well, actually, you're a track manager now, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a member at Northern, so Northern Suburbs represent. Also the track manager there, so if you want to mess with the track, you got to go through me first. But I'm a member at Northern.
Yeah, okay.
But it is a bit like, I don't know, especially like when I was living in Geelong, I was like a member at Geelong, and it felt like, I don't know, just felt a bit more like that's your club, and you feel a bit more like, I guess, patriotic about your club. Yeah. When you're in Melbourne, because all the tracks are so, it's like a big web of clubs. Yeah. It's kind of like, once you're a club of, like you sort of go everywhere.
You become
like,
a gypsy.
Yeah. But I'm pretty passionate about the Northern Suburbs. I reckon it's the best place in the world.
You've said it. You've loved it from day one of them reopening the place. You're like, this place is sick, and everyone's like, what's with this place?
It's not the most fun track, I would say. But
the more you ride it, the better it gets.
Yeah. It is. It's good. It's flat, but it's flat and busy. It's good. Yeah. But I think the club's good. There's a lot of good people there.
Yeah. Probably that what makes it as well.
Yeah. But I don't know. For the most part, all the clubs that I deal with, so like, Northern, Knox, PO, and Lilydale. Yeah. Everyone's pretty laid back, and so you're like, not official members there, but adopted. Yeah. Sort of. Everyone's like really cool. So,
that's cool. Yeah, I saw you. We went up to Mildura a couple weeks ago, didn't you?
Yeah, so that was really cool. So last couple weekends ago,
we've done it again.
So we're gonna call it quits. I'll just let them talk. See you later. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Nathan, for coming along, and it looks like we're gonna have to get you back.
Yeah, there's more to this. Yeah. So let's keep rolling. I knew it was gonna happen. But no, heap of fun having you on, mate, and I know there's so much more there to talk about. So look forward to the next time.
Thanks for having me. Let it last, which is good.
See you, everyone.
Thank you.